I'm getting us on YouTube. Live.
Nice. Live.
Yay.
Nice.
Hold getting on us on YouTube. Like we needed to hear that twice. Okay. This meeting is being live streamed. Got it.
Oh, you might also at some point want to look into changing your YouTube video to not be a YouTube Kids channel as well at some point. Not that that's a top priority, but I did notice that when I saw the replay.
Hold on.
In fairness, it's probably more the educational things that are on YouTube Kids.
Oh, probably.
So, right?
But we might have to start editing what we talk about.
Oh, did I click child safe?
The channel said that it's a YouTube Kids channel. I don't know if that might be a default. You might have to turn it off. I don't know. It's been a long time since I've looked at it.
I was thinking I'm a child and I'm safe. I've got my safe right here, so everything's cool. And here we are at Triple T number 6. And I need to get Miss Fran the number. What did I just do? Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, everybody got quiet as soon as I clicked the button. I was like, okay, let's see if I can find the number.
Hey Mo, how you doing?
Whilst there we go.
It's just ignorance. I see how it is.
Doing good, feeling better.
I had to find the mute button. It's really hard.
Right.
Got one here, one there. It's a mess. Hi, Maurice. Hi, John.
Hi, how you doing?
Pictures. Good. How are you guys?
There we go. All righty, kids. Anybody have any particular requests for this evening? Or I've got a couple of things that I whipped up in this place up here. The other.
If we get to request, I'm going to go with 3 magic questions.
Okay.
That's me.
I could do that. I'll go over what options I have right now. One was in regard, well, we still didn't get around to much of the cooking stuff or the home energy stuff either that somebody had asked me about, but that can be later. Also got some timeline stuff. Safe place for opposing viewpoints and stop start now are a couple of the items that I had set up for this evening. Any input or requests on those items?
I vote for timeline.
I'll second that.
Okay. Timeline manipulation. Is there anybody, let's see. All those that are here are familiar. You've heard of timeline manipulation, I'm pretty sure. Do you guys remember the manipulations of in time, through time, all of those settings, compressed, in your heart, expanded, all the above? Okay. I've gone over so much stuff. Have I gone over the timeline manipulation with energy injection yet on these classes? Okay. So this was a download to me, just like a lot of David's stuff, where out of necessity, needing to get something done quickly for reps. And so what I came up with was we had just gone over all of the different timelines. What I did was I'll have the client take their timeline, set it out again in front of them so that it's passing by like a slow moving freight train where you can see every second of every minute of every hour clicking by. And you can look forward to your future. You can look back to conception. And first thing that I'll have them do is I'll have them look down from this point, this exact point in time, all the way down to conception, and notice all the peaks and valleys that have come along the way. And the peaks are the best days, all the good things that have ever happened in your life. And the valleys, and I emphasize it specifically, the valleys are all of the things, the less than positive things that you've survived, that you've gone through, that have helped create who you are today. And the good thing is there's nothing back there, no matter how deep or dark or wide that valley is. You've survived 100% of everything back there. There's nothing back there that you are not stronger than. But because our memories are not accurate and we get to edit or do whatever we want with them, I'm curious. If there were a color or colors that you could send down your timeline to fill in those valleys, to make looking back on them easier, what color or colors would you send down there? And it's kind of funny because probably I'd say now about 70% of the time, hi Bonnie, I would say the colors that they choose to send down to fill in those valleys are typically greens and blues. And the only explanation that kind of popped into my head would be water and vegetation, because they're seeing mountainscapes or whatever. So I have them send whatever colors they are down their timeline and keep sending them until those colors reach conception. As soon as that happens, boom, everything changes, and all of the ripple effect of all those changes travels forward and hits them and changes all of those energies, all that stuff that's in their body that they thought was how it was back then. But it now is so much easier to look back and go, wow, you know what, I made it. I got the lessons out of it. I'm fine. I'm alive today. Everything's cool. Once all of those changes and understandings settle in, then I have them rise up above their timeline, float all the way back to just before conception, and land down so that their timeline is straight ahead of them like a tube. And they can see from conception, which is just in front of them, all the way down to end of days. And then I will ask them to go through all of the state colors. What color is curiosity? What color is relentlessness? What color is victoriousness? What color is, of course, now I did them out of order. Victorious, relentless, curiosity. Help me out, folks.
Playful.
Playful, thank you. Yes, I don't have enough playful in me. That's why I was having trouble with it. And then Planet TJ, adds on two more. security, and love. And so I will have them identify all the colors of those energies and then build a big ball of all of those energies and physically put them into their lungs so that they can blow those energies down through that tube of their timeline. And I physically make them continue blowing all those energies until they can see them come out at the other end of their timeline at end of days. Now, as soon as they verify that they can see the colors coming out of the other end of the tunnel at end of days, I have them rise up and go back to present, land down beside their timeline so that they can see it going past in front of them. And I have them reach inside of their timeline and touch each one of the energies independently. So I'm like, now reach inside of your timeline and touch playfulness. Now reach inside your timeline and touch victoriousness. Yes. Now reach inside your timeline and touch security. Now reach inside of your timeline and touch love. But because they are in full supply and will never run out, I want you to step into your timeline once and play it like an instrument. And I want you to touch security and love at the same time and notice what that feels like. And then I want you to touch relentless playfulness and notice what that combination does for you. Because sometimes we don't need just one pure energy. We need a combination. Sometimes we need all of them. I mean, go in there and just grab the whole thing and hang on for dear life and let all of it hit you in the butt and drag you along. But sometimes, like I say, you know, what does curious love feel like? To me, it feels like dating. Finding out about a new passion. Maybe it's a new pet. What the heck am I gonna teach this puppy not to do, but I love him. Little shit. What's relentless security? I don't know. But these are ways that I get my clients to understand that it helps a lot with the day-to-day changes and challenges, and let them understand that they don't have to rely on just one option. And Linda says I'm fuzzy, so just checking, am I fuzzy or is it margarita time? It's big enough to share? Woohoo!
Really clear.
I think you're out of focus slightly.
Slightly?
It is
No.
margarita time, but nonetheless.
It's
Okay.
fairly clear.
But
Okay, I guess it's me then.
like, yeah. Maybe I need something stronger than kombucha.
Yeah, it's just not sharp focus for some reason. All right, I'll have a drink. Never mind.
There you go. Yeah. Have a couple of them, and after a while, it won't matter.
Okay.
So that is part of the timeline manipulation that with energy injection. Let's see here. Sorry, I got people that are texting me trying to get in. Guess I'm gonna have to get me an assistant here pretty soon.
Yeah, TJ,
Yes,
the
ma'am.
link that was in on Facebook didn't seem to work. I went back to a link, the one that was just posted that said TT5. So I went back to a very old one, and
Cool.
that's how I got in here.
Yeah, me too.
Because I oopsied and forgot that I oopsied, so I forgot to fix my oopsie.
Oh,
See?
I don't know if that's considered a triple oopsie or
Oopsie.
so. Yeah, oopsie. Here's another little twist that somebody hit me with in regards to multiple lifetimes and timeline and all that stuff. What if the light at the end of the tunnel is actually you coming out of the next mommy?
Yeah, that's occurred to me.
Whee!
Mm-hmm.
That could explain a couple of those hard births. No, I don't want to die. No, just that. So, welcome to our world. Hey, you made it on, Ellen. Good to see you. So that was a little snippet on timeline and stuff. So that brings us to, I've got a couple of things here I'm going to hit on. Another one was an interesting quote from a podcast that will help, especially when working with clientele. And the question was, are you interested or committed in achieving these goals? And it's an excellent question. The explanation behind it was, if you're interested, you'll do whatever's convenient, including excuses. You'll take the softest way to try and get there, and if it doesn't work out, well, the interest probably just dies out. If you're committed, you'll do whatever it takes to achieve them as soon as possible. And sometimes you have to bring this up to the client to have them do an evaluation. One that pops up the quickest for two of them that pop up right off the bat is smoke cessation and weight loss. When they come to me for that, it's like, are you interested or are you committed in achieving these goals? And drilling down in values and criteria elicitation is going to be a good way to discern between the two, not only for you, but for the client. When I've had people come to me for smoke cessation, and I didn't use that question because I just got it, but I always drill down, why do you want to quit? And dig into their values and criteria to see if they're strong enough. And one that has really caught them off guard is I'll ask them, well, what do you like best about smoking? Because they're like, what? Well, everybody tells me how bad. What do you mean? I'm like, no, I'm a former smoker. I remember those times after having a meal, spark up. I had trained my body to believe that that was refreshing and enjoyable. Thank God I erased that program. But for some people back in the day, when I was thoroughly enjoying smoking, it would have been 20 times harder for me to quit than it was when I was properly motivated and properly educated on quitting. And that's where I would probably estimate, thanks to Ken Gutso, I give him credit. I got to sit in one of his smoke cessation classes at Hypnothoughts. And the approach that he hit me with blew my mind. If I would have had that, it wouldn't have taken me 4 times to quit. I would have been able to quit the first time. But again, don't know what you don't know. Now I'm here with new tools, knowledge, and energy that I didn't have back then. Any questions on that input, ahas, epiphanies, things you want to share with the group? Bueller.
Everyone, great to be here. I didn't catch what the important thing that made you 4 times as effective with your non-smoking session.
What it was a quote from a podcast that I had heard, simply where the guy pointed out, asking your clients, are you interested or committed in achieving these goals, regardless of the goal? It could be business, and I've done that before in doing my corporate coaching. I've had a couple of CEOs come to me and they wanted to build a business bigger. And so I had to drill down on their values and criteria, like, okay, so why do you want your business bigger? What will it give you, and what will it take to get there? And is it worth the fight? Would it be better to make your business more profitable and more streamlined? Or is size what matters? And I had a couple of my CEOs that once I drilled down and had them actually look at the whole idea, they were like, maybe I need to streamline and work on profitability instead of adding 2 or 3 more locations. So that's another one where you can use that question for multiple location scenarios. And I see that Elijah just popped on. Good to see you here, brother. So again, anybody else? Hey. Anybody else have any input or questions regarding that before I move on to chase another squirrel down the road?
Hey, TJ. In terms of smoking and quitting smoking, I know some people who actually work in, I guess the medical department, and they treat them quitting smoking, using medicines, medicine and medication that would inhibit some receptors in the brain. So their approach is different from approaches of hypnosis. So I hear that hypnosis work, and then I hear that taking pills and popping pills work. So,
well, I'll chase this squirrel because as a former smoker who had to quit 4 times, and after learning what I have from Ken Gutso, his approach is by far the most amazing reframe, most successful, the success rate that he has and his students have had, and that I personally have had with clients, is downright amazing. And my favorite first question, and this one goes right in the face of the medical industry, and I will gladly debate with them to a point until it works, is simply the question, is nicotine an addictive chemical? Yes or no?
No.
That is the correct answer. But wait a minute. All you hear about on the packs of cigarettes and on the media, addictive chemical and da da da. Hey, we've got this. If you don't want to smoke cigarettes, we've got this vape for you that has nicotine in it. But nicotine is an addictive chemical. We just want to let you know. Why do they keep enforcing that? Because it's real easy, if you think that nicotine is addictive, to sell you the patches, the gums, the programs, the blah, 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 and the blah, 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 and all the other stuff that's in the industry to deal with an addictive chemical. As soon as I bring that up, and I can see the look of these smokers going, what? Like, okay, think back to that very first cigarette, because I had one too. And remember how amazingly awesome that thing was. You put that cigarette in that first time, you lit that baby up, you took a nice big drag, and you went, wow, that is awesome. I could do this for the rest of my life. Or were you like 99.999% of the human population that took a drag and then coughed out your spleen, turned green, and some of us threw the hell up because we were trying to get our body to accept this poison that doesn't belong in there? Oh, but nicotine is addicting. No, nicotine is habitual. Yes, it does trigger things in your body. But here's the scoop. I remember, okay, I'm old enough to where I got to bartend in bars where everybody got to smoke. So you would have smokers and non-smokers, and you would have bar staff that were non-smokers hanging out in this blue haze of tobacco smoke. And even the non-smokers were probably enjoying at least 3/4 of a pack of cigarettes that night, each night that they worked. But when they would go home or when they would go on vacation for a week, ironically, they weren't jonesing for a ciggy butt. And you would think if you were sucking in that much addictive stuff that you would, after a week, be going, I need something. Oh my God. But no. You also have women who could be as much of a 2-pack a day smoker, find out they're pregnant, shut that off just like that. Wait until the baby's born, possibly when they're done breastfeeding, and then they're out with their friends, finally get a night out, have an adult beverage or two. Their friend lights one up and they're like, hey, can I have a drag? And that anchor, that habit pops right back in. Oh, it must have been the nicotine. No, it was the anchor and the habit. Especially if you linked smoking with having fun and having drinks. Oh, I only smoke when I drink. Yeah, that's not an addiction, that's a habit. The other question I asked them, if you take truly addictive chemicals, cocaine, meth, heroin, what is the minimal exposure needed to be addicted? Once. There are plenty of people out there. One line of coke, one hit of meth, they are addicted. And when they try to quit, what does their body go through? Total, I mean, it can be fatal in some situations. Now, people that quit smoking because they don't want to, but they have to, and somebody blah, blah, blah. Oh, I gained so much weight. Yes, because smoking is this activity, this habit. Well, if you're not bringing a cigarette up to your mouth, what else are you going to bring up to your mouth? Anything. If somebody takes away one of your favorite activities because you don't want to, what's your inner child go? Everything that sucks today sucks. And I get to be an asshole because I just quit smoking and you all suck and the world sucks and sucky, sucky, suck. But amazingly, when you go in through hypnosis and you de-energize that habit and you release that anchor, people can quit just like that. Amazingly. I was about to say the name, but somebody I know very well, her first husband went to a hypnotist back in the day to quit smoking and purchased 3 sessions. Came home after the first session and she goes, honey, how'd it go? And he goes, what a crock of shit. Yeah, I heard him talking the whole time, blah, 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 this and that, da, 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 da. It didn't work. I even stopped by the store on the way home and I bought a pack of smokes. And she goes, I thought, I'm going outside. And he didn't smoke a single cigarette after that. So I guess it goes back to my favorite story about the hypnosis panel and talking about hypnosis, and the one person that thought they were going to tear him down stands up and yells, hypnosis is nothing but a placebo. And thank God we had a fast thinking smart person up on stage on the panel that went placebo, placebo. You mean that thing that every medication ever made is compared to and is 60% successful with no side effects, no issues, no nothing? Wow, what a great endorsement. Thank you for that. We really appreciate you bringing up something that amazing for us. Everybody's like, ah! And he just kind of shut up and wilted and left the room. Yes, that was a squirrel that I chased all the way down into the ditch, but hopefully you guys got something out of that. It's been a long day. I'm wound up tighter than a $3 top. So
TJ, what was the amazing technique that that fellow used to get people to stop smoking? What was it that he did?
Are we talking about the technique that Ken Gutso has mastered, or the one that my friend's ex-husband went through?
No, the one you said you went to the seminar at Hypno.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that's Ken Gutso. And ironically, you just heard a good portion of the reframe. Yes, Elijah, you got it. By pointing out that the chemical that you thought you were addicted to is not an addicting chemical, and reiterating. So now that you know that you are no longer a user of nicotine and that you have never been addicted to nicotine, and that in the end of this, you will no longer be a smoker. And those are setting, they're priming all of that stuff. He admitted that 90% of the process is done in the pre-talk. The actual session, the actual putting them into trance is more for a show and to get them into a trance to just reiterate that it worked.
So what about the habitual part though? I mean, once obviously they reframe that the drug is not addictive, but how do they address the habitual?
That's when I was going through the talk, reinforcing that it's a habit. It's a habit just like eating. It's a habit like, and as Elijah put up, when you build a reframe, no matter what it's for, it's best practice to make it have layers like an onion, make it unravelable. And so with me going through story after story, there's a lot of trance in storytelling and different examples of, yes, you had the mommy who used to be a smoker, had a kid, was able to quit just like that, no longer a smoker until she went out and the anchor was brought back in because she didn't get the right approach. You know, all of these things, and you tell enough stories and you make them realize that they're not addicted to the nicotine. They're addicted to a habit, and habits can be broken or built. It's up to whatever they want. And if you've drilled down to the values and criteria deep enough for them to have a strong enough reason to want to quit, now understanding that they're not addicted, it's much, much, much easier for them to be able to quit.
I got it. So basically what you're doing is just letting them know that A, it's not addictive, B, it's a habit. And when you really want to break a habit, you simply do it.
Correct.
Okay.
And then you can reinforce it with, okay, so you used to have this habit. There was a time when you had this habit. You used to be a person who used nicotine. What would you like instead? And you can do the color breathing and stuff. What's the energy that is inside you with the smoking? What would you like instead? In fact, I even had one guy that another great one, Elijah, smoking is something they are doing, not something that they are. De-identifying from the statement, I am a smoker, gives huge leverage. And that's why you constantly reiterate, when you are no longer a person who uses nicotine, when you are no longer a person who smokes cigarettes, you're taking away the identity, you're chipping that identity away. And the squirrel ran across the street and I didn't catch it.
Well, what I hear you saying is that once you de-identify with the behavior, then it becomes very easy. The habit just sort of breaks itself naturally.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Okay.
And especially when you have them identify something that they want instead. You know, if they're quitting because they want to get in shape, take that habit, take all that energy that fed that habit before and transfer it over to a drive to become a person who thoroughly enjoys working out and taking care of their body. And now that you are no longer a person who smokes cigarettes, that becomes even easier. So you're doing a transference of time and energy towards something that they want instead, that helps make it work even better. Let's see, what else? Any other questions or ahas?
I have a quick question. So kind of with that identity statement thing, I don't know how many of you have worked with somebody who's been going to AA, and they always talk about part of that process is I am an alcoholic, I will always be an alcoholic, that sort of thing. Has anyone found a good way to reframe that without, for lack of a better way of saying it, without dissing their AA group?
Yeah, because my father went through AA when I was 12, and I got to go through Al-Anon and Alateen and all of the stuff surrounding it. Very familiar with it. I've gotten on their case a couple of times. AA has a fairly good success rate. My issue with them, though, is they attack the alcohol. And a number of times they don't attack they attack the symptom, not the cause. And especially in my father's case, my father wasn't a raging drunk. He wasn't, he had it recommended because of the pastor. And so they took his alcohol away from him. And it didn't take long before he became what is known as a dry drunk. All of the symptoms were still there because the cause had not been addressed. And he didn't have his favorite medication to take care of the symptoms. So he dove into a few or a number of other things, and they didn't satisfy him as much as the drinking did, so he got bitter. And as much as I love and adore him and I miss him terribly, he turned into an asshole. He was a dry drunk, and he was tough to be around. And then all of a sudden things started changing again. And he started getting nicer. And you know how, like with warming the water in the pot, you don't notice the gradual change until you're like, wait a minute, something. We finally figured out that he started drinking again. And ironically, we were happy because he finally stopped being an asshole. He had his medication back. And that's where it made me dive deeper into, especially when I fell onto Planet David, I started really looking back. And then when we did Chinese facial reading, and I at his funeral, I learned even more of what he went through as a child. Talk about, I'm like, well, shit, no wonder. Grandpa came over on the boat from Germany as an infant and lived on the same piece of dirt since he was a year old. And his family, when World War II broke out, was scared to death. So they spoke English. Everybody spoke English. Grandpa understood German, could speak a little bit of it, but everybody was hunkered down. You lay low, you be good. We're farmers. We just want to be left alone out in the middle of nowhere, Farmville in the middle of Minnesota. And then my father's mother died when he was 7 and his sister was 2. No, she was 1. Dad was 7, she was 1. Mother died of breast cancer, and grandpa didn't know how to take, that was her stuff. He had a whole farm to run. And so dad and his sister, my aunt, got bounced around from family to friend to family to friend to, and grandpa pretty much climbed into a bottle and kept the farm running until he met a school teacher who was widowed, who already had 4 kids that were older than my father and educated because she was a teacher. And when they got married, well, then my father and my aunt got back into the family. But by then, I think dad was and so a lot of those issues coming from an alcoholic family, and my father got bounced around and then didn't do well in school. And for his senior trip, they sent him off to Vietnam and came back, and he was 25 years old when he met my 20-year-old mother and went to a party with my father and went home with my mother. Just saying. 9 months later, 3 months later, no, 6 months later, they got married. 3 months after that, the world had to put up with me, and here we are. So, long story short on all of that, when I look back, I'm almost positive, had they been able to go back and dig down and address the cause of his alcoholism, he would have been able to quit and possibly even not started drinking again. And that's where I think they fall short. I know a number of people that he went through treatment with. And I would say 60% of them were able to successfully quit. And Alan added, I agree. I say human connection is needed for helping people with addiction, that AA has its value in that regard, but I help with the underlying issues, which mean they no longer need the medication. Yeah. Fix the cause, not the symptom. So that was a squirrel I chased down the road much longer than I anticipated. Anybody have any input or questions or ahas, epiphanies? Okay. Got 10 minutes left on my hour. Another one that was brought up was when I'm doing my consult, I make sure that I affirm that they are in a safe place. Not judging. I still have to go by my ethics, but I can't judge what they're coming to me for as long as they're not out to hurt themselves or anybody else. And one thing that I found this week was a safe place for opposing viewpoints and opinions. I don't want to be surrounded by people who will never challenge me, but I will walk away from those who constantly have to be my opposite with no opening to challenge their beliefs. And I'll read it again just so you guys can let it soak in a little more. There has to be a safe place for opposing viewpoints and opinions. I don't want to be surrounded by people who will never challenge me, but I will walk away from those who constantly have to be my opposite with no opening to challenge their beliefs. Obviously, in this day and age, that's getting more and more prominent. But one very interesting deal from history was Abraham Lincoln. And there are a couple of books out that when Abraham Lincoln got elected president, people couldn't believe that he put a bunch of the people that ran against him on his cabinet. And they're like, what do you hear what those guys were saying to you before the election? And he said, yes. And that's why I want them on my committee. I don't want people who are going to agree with everything I say, because I may come up with a dumbass idea. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. But I may come up with a bad idea, and I don't want them going, oh, that's a wonderful idea. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I want people that are going to challenge my positions and challenge my outlooks and opinions. Because in the end, I still am the president, but I need to make the most educated decisions possible. And I can't do that if I don't have opposing viewpoints. And I think part of what we do is people come to us with what their idea of what's going to take and what's wrong and all these things. And we almost at times have to be the devil's advocate and show them opposites and hold up mirrors and do these reframes and challenge them into different areas, especially when I'm working with athletes and corporates. Like I stated earlier, where they'll come to me and like, well, I need to expand, and I have to be able to carefully question and reframe them to make sure that their decision is based on the correct information and drive. And to go back to the dating deal that we did was it last week or a couple episodes before, with the 1 year no dating challenge, where they're like, rah, 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 rah. That's a pushback and a reframe for them. But also when I make them write down all of the attributes of the person that they're looking for, I'll challenge them on some stuff, not because I'm like, that's not what you want. I want you to understand what you're putting down and what else it could be. Thank you, Bonnie. Appreciate you showing up. So allow and invite people with opposing views, not because we love to argue. I hate that, but you need that alternate view of what could be, so that you can either verify for yourself that your choice is indeed the best, or have the option of changing the course, however much it takes to get to where you need to go. Does that make sense? Cool. We're almost at the end of my hour. Do you guys have any stuff that you would like to add, or ahas, epiphanies, or input on what I went over? Come out of trance. Watch me dance.
I would just like to add in there, TJ, that you're absolutely right. When people challenge your belief system and stuff, it really
Yep.
gives you the opportunity to grow. And if you don't allow that, you're going to be stuck in a bottle.
Thank you. I've felt that way myself. Another area that this comes into play with so much is when I tell people that they should do whatever they can to find a mastermind group, and I had it just freaking squirrels running all over the place. What is the group for public speaking again? Anybody know?
Toastmasters.
What's that?
Toastmasters.
Toastmasters. Thank you. Yes. I tell a lot of people that they should go out and find and join a Toastmaster group, but don't settle on the first one that if you've only got one that you can get to, that's your one. But if you're in an area that's big enough to have more than one, I highly, highly recommend you go to every one that you are capable to go to, and then pick the most challenging one. And this comes directly from personal experience. When I was in San Diego, I wanted to improve my speaking skills and looked into Toastmasters, and I think they had like 6 different Toastmasters in the San Diego area. And one of them was right in my work area. I mean, I drove by it, I don't know how many times a day. I'm like, whoop, 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 yeah. Showed up. And if you've never been to a Toastmaster event, they have different topics and table topics, and they have you talk, and they've got somebody that counts all your ums and ahs and nahs and pauses and things like that, so that you can be cognitive of your speaking capability. And at the end of the meeting, they give out 2 awards to the best presenters or speakers of the evening. I won both of them. The person who there were 2 people that had been part of that group for 12 years, and a couple of them that had been part of the group for over 5 years. I was happy to get the medal, but I was also I was bummed or the award, but I was also bummed that I got the award, because I knew that it was time to find someplace else. Because if I can show up on night 1, not understand what they're doing, not understand what the discussion topic was, where they had a whole week to get prepared for the discussion topic, I only had a few minutes. And when they counted up all the stuff, I won the award. So I started going around, and I went to 3 of the other ones. And unfortunately, the most challenging one that I found was also the farthest one away, go figure. But that night when I sat with that group and I watched them get up and talk, I was like, wow, That's what I want to be able to talk like. That is why this is the group that I want to be a part of, because I want to be good enough to win an award against them. Even in the mastermind, the famous quote, if you're the smartest person in the room, be a good time to find another room, so that you're constantly challenged. And that's also why Triple T, I only get to be a talking head for the first hour. After that, I open up to open conversations, or thanks, Moss. If somebody else has something that they want to add or offer up to the group, that helps all of us get better. With that, anybody have anything that they want to add, or subjects, or you can even pick a subject or something you were thinking of and see if I can help you with it.
And does anyone else have a mastermind here?
I'm sorry, what was that, Alan? You're a little muffled. That's why I'm having.
Sorry, I'm just asking you about your mastermind group. I'm assuming this isn't it. And also, if anyone else is in a mastermind, I'd really like to hear about it.
Well, this I consider the second hour to be my mastermind group, where the very first Triple T, one of the people that was on had mentioned that they were trying to complete a book. They had started writing a book, and they were just being a little held back. And so a bunch of us came in with ideas and angles, and I did a reframe on what was actually holding her back. And a word came out, and as soon as she said that word, I felt the emphasis that was on it. And when we dove into it, it busted that procrastination bubble and gave her a goal and a timeline. And by the next meeting, she had a beautiful story of how everything just, and things are growing and flowing, and her book should be in print here. I would say, if it isn't already, it should be very soon. So as far as the mastermind concept, I also, especially with my CEOs and stuff, I highly recommend, if you guys are working with any corporates or CEOs, recommend to them to do an in-house mastermind on some set timeline, whether it be twice a year, 3 times a year, 4 times a year. But I challenge them, don't do it with only this. You're doing meetings with your department heads all the time. But I challenge you to visit your business or get to know your business and sponsor a mastermind with the ground people, a representative of the departments of the ground people, and let them know it's a safe place. But the part of the problem that I see, and especially in some of the corporations that I didn't survive in because I'm not a very good employee, the top guys are surrounded by a lot of times, unfortunately, yes people, and they have no idea what's happening on the ground level. And that's where these ideas of like, oh, we just need to do it this way, we just need to put the square peg in the round hole, it'll work. No. And it gets down to the ground people, and the ground people are going, who in the, what, why? No, doesn't work. And one of the CEOs that I worked with, ironically came to me because he had a glass ceiling for building corporations. He had been through a number of them and was able to bring them up to, I think it was like 3.8 million. He could do 3.8 million revenue a year, and just something blocked him. As soon as he hit that number, that was it. And we went in and I found out the reason, and that's another whole squirrel trip I could chase down the freeway for a while. But this is where I challenged him to do a mastermind, because the corporation he was building had 5 locations worldwide. And I said, just try it 3 times. Put together a mastermind with people on the ground, invite them in, and don't talk to them like they're, well, I know that you're on the ground level, so could you talk to them same way you do all of the direct people, and set out an itinerary. Ask them the questions that you ask the directors. And after the very first one, the session I had with him after the very first mastermind, he was like, holy flipping pizza balls, man. The information that he got out of that one meeting with the ground level people totally blew his mind. But it took him, I made sure that he understood that he was going to have to frame it as such that he needed their help. This was a safe place, and he wanted honest, true, give me. I'm not going to go back to your directors and go, I just need to know how to run this ship, and I need to know from the bottom up. And now it's 4 years later, and his company, his main goal was to get it to 10 million annually, consistently. And even through the Rona thing, he is on course to where he may be able to hit 10 million this year. When he does, they now have 2 buyers that are willing to buy it for $100 million. And he attributes part of that to these meetings with the ground level people to get the true ideas and reframes and different, because a lot of times what happens, and I said, and it can't be all of the assemblers. You can have 1 or 2 assembler, but you also have to have a ground person from finance. You have to have a ground person from R&D. You have to have a ground person from HR. You have to have a ground person from all the departments, because sure as Snikey that one of the ideas will come up from the assembler. Well, we just need we can pull that. And the finance person would go, well, the only problem with that is the working budget right now is and the numbers we can't make work. We have to figure out how to do that. They would have never been able to do that had they not found out that the assemblers needed to do it this way, not the way they were doing that. Does that make sense? So again, there's another example of that you can use with clientele to let them know about masterminding. The same way as depending on what industry your client is in, say a photographer. As a former photographer, I was lucky enough to be a member of Minnesota Professional Photographers Association. And a lot of, I knew some photographers that, it's just a waste of time, waste of money, blah, 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 blah. And I said, yes, but you also need to go there to find out what's happening in the industry. If something falls short, who can you back up on? You know, like in our industry, when I do my consults, I've had to fire a number of potential clients because they didn't pass the test. And I've also had to let go of a couple of existing clients because their issues were a little bit beyond my pay grade. The other issue was, I hate to say it, and I probably shouldn't say it, but I'm going to. At this point, it needs to be out there. There are clients that their only reason to come to you is because they want to prove to you that they cannot be helped. And in the consult, it took me a while to learn this the hard way because I'm a fixer. I want to help everybody and anybody, and I will do the best I can to make sure that I do that for anybody that I can. But it didn't take me long to get burned on a couple of them where you can literally see them unraveling all the work that you did. And yes, I charge by the minute, and I don't give rebates if they think it didn't work, which is why I record every single interaction with clients. Because I had one that did all she could to twist and turn and try to get a refund and twist my words, and luckily I was able to send her clips and videos of exactly what she said, and she got all mad. But she was one of those that I don't know what her secondary gain was, but she was bound and determined to prove that nobody could help her. But she screamed and yelled and cried that she needed the help and she wanted the help and she just needed to change. And but I don't want to do a damn thing that you tell me to do, and I'm going to go back to the way I, because that. But I'm over it now, mildly. In fact, see these transformation lines up on my forehead? I'm pretty sure she gave me one of them. But squirrel? Any questions on that squirrel? Because I think it ran off while I was looking at my forehead. How you doing, Elijah?
I'm good, man. Thanks. Thanks for having me. Good morning from London, everyone. Nice to be here. Always a pleasure. I got a new squirrel for you. I got one you can chase.
Woohoo!
All right. Can we talk about short-term results versus long-term success? Because I found a lot of people, and myself included sometimes, that they have a strong desire, they have a decent plan, even a good system, but because the results take a little longer to show themselves, maybe the grind in the beginning is a little bit long, they get disheartened and then they kind of give up a bit prematurely. Can we talk maybe a little bit about that kind of stuff?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that subject.
Anybody want to chime in before I give my 2.5 cents? Bueller? All right.
Let me out, guys.
Let's put a saddle on this here squirrel and see where she goes. A lot of it, what I found in those is I found a combination of secondary gain and values and criteria. And I'll start with the values and criteria. When you drill down to why they're going to want to do it, you have to hit that thing that digs in there, that if you can get them to tear up or cry, and I'll even send them a snippet of that, of the recording of that. I've had, people that want to do stuff, and I'll drill down and I need to exercise, but I'll go to the gym for 5-6 weeks, whatever, and then I drill down to their values and criteria and find out they got a kid. And I'll push on that and go, okay, now what's important to you about, being there for your kid? And do you think your kid will ever have grandkids? And what do you think it would be like to be able to play with the grandkids outside of a wheelchair, like be able to actually play baseball with the grandkids in the backyard instead of with a walker? And you find some value and criteria that is strong enough to support what it's going to take for them to really want to do it. Make them put up a picture of their kids. I even had one guy, I had him, I said, I know your kids are young, but I want you to draw a picture of you playing baseball with your grandkids and your kids. And I put it in that order. Well, I'm not much of a drawer. I said, I guarantee you, your brain knows exactly what that drawing is, even if it's stick figures. Don't care. It doesn't have to be a Rembrandt or a Picasso. And the session that I had after that, I said, I want to see your picture. He goes, what? I said, where's your picture? He goes, it's in my bathroom. It's on my mirror. I said, I want you to go get it. And he came back, and you could just see in his face. And I said, let me see it. And he was tearing up already just by holding the picture and looking at it. Because that was a value, a criteria that was unshakable. And he drew it, he put the energy into the picture. The other one being secondary gain. A lot of times this is the tricky one, because secondary gain can be one of those hidden landmines that we don't see, they don't know about, they don't understand, but it's a hell of a landmine nonetheless. And it goes in line with making sure that in your consult you're specific about what they want to change. And if you go in there and you find something else, do you want it fixed, or do you want me to bring out a trance and we talk about it? And the majority of people would be like, no, if you find shit, fix it. The reason being is one of our comrades had a session with a gentleman for something else, but the gentleman was a stutterer. And while they were in doing change work, he found out why the guy stuttered. And so they cleared it up. Guy comes out of trance, all good, sends him home. 2 days later, the guy shows up back at the clinic and he is raging mad. Who told you to fix my stuttering? I never told you I wanted my stuttering gone. What? I want my money back. And and everybody's like, what? Wait, you want your stuttering back? Really? 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 And when the hypnotist got the guy settled down enough, okay, but can we go in and figure out what it is, why you want your stuttering back? Secondary gain. His stuttering made him unique. And as soon as he no longer stuttered, he was like everybody else. And he didn't understand the value of his stuttering to his inner self, and nobody else would have. So in losing interest or stuff, sometimes it can be like in the event of fitness or something like that, secondary gain could be maintaining the protective layer that the subconscious put on the body to protect them from being hit on, or, especially in females. But one of my main reframes for females that are complaining about being overweight, I'm like, are you sure it's not a protective barrier that your body put on to protect you from other things? I've seen very, very attractive women that go through something and all of a sudden they'll pack on 30, 40 pounds just like that. And you go in there and you're like, and they're like, I don't understand it. I want to lose weight and I can't get it off. And you go in there and all of a sudden you find out that inside of them is a sad, depressed, freaked out person who went through some shit, and their subconscious just went, that's it. We need some type of protection. We need some padding. We need something, and the pounds will go on. One of them was a model that I dated for a while. When I finally got a hold of her while I was out in Cali, I hadn't seen her for 8 years. She refused to FaceTime with me or send me a picture. And when I finally dug down, she had gained 50 pounds. And this was before Planet David, so I didn't know how to help her. But she goes, I got sick of guys hitting on me and treat me like a piece of blah, blah, blah. And I said, fuck it. And I just started eating. I didn't care anymore. And now I can't get the weight off. And she passed away 2 years later. And I'm friends with her family, obviously, and they posted some pictures of her. And yeah, I wouldn't have recognized her. So, secondary gain, values and criteria. Trying to think of what anybody.
Do you think like if it's something that's happened more than once, like someone gets started moving towards achieving, whatever XYZ, and then they kind of fall off, and then after a while they try again, and this kind of goes on. Do you think there's like something telling in like you said earlier about the guy who, his business gets up to 3.8 million and then he kind of falls off at the same point? You think there's something telling at like the point where you fall off if it happens like more than once? There's some kind of barrier or some kind of force that's kind of pulling you back to your set point or something?
Yes, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that brings another, I know we're on your guys' hour, but financial thermostat. That was the big thing with his glass ceiling for success. And financial thermostat is a protocol that I came up with after Millionaire Mindset, Kiyosaki, and Tony Robbins. And in his case, 3.8 million was the top of the thermostat. To touch on the thermostat idea real quick so that you can see the protocol, we all have multiple thermostats for different things, for our body weight, for finances, for success, for all of these things. And there's the high and the low. And the financial is typically the most common one, whereas a lot of times the way we grew up, that environment set our high level thermostat setting. It also set the low level thermostat setting, but typically the low level is much easier to adjust and break down. And just like a thermostat at your house, if the temperature gets too high and everything's working properly, AC kicks on, drops it back down to that level. And if the temperature gets too low, now the fire kicks on, furnace kicks on, brings that level up to whatever you've got it set at. So in the area of finance, if disaster were to happen or whatever, and you lose a bunch of stuff or you lose a job, that lower level thermostat is what's going to keep you off the streets. It's going to tell you, yo, dude, we need some food. We need a house. We need, you better damn get a job. And it has to be this much because we need to live at this level. The high-end thermostat is often what limits people when they're working on their success, because their inner child or whoever set that thermostat set it at this level, above or beyond that level. That's why people that win the lottery, and they've got, the lottery's been going on long enough now that they've got plenty of data. A vast majority of people that had their thermostat here, and all of a sudden they win the lottery and they've got this much money, within 2 to 5 years, they've lost all to here. And they're right back where they were before they won the lottery, because their financial thermostat went, whoa, that's too much money, too much. Turn on the AC, slow down, get rid of it. And they'll bring it back down to a level that they've set. Now, with the CEO that I successfully used this on with his business, it was his 17-year-old self that was the last one to adjust the financial thermostat. And when he asked him, what's with 3.8 million? And he goes, I heard it somewhere, and that's a lot of money. Man, you never need more than 3.8. That any business or any person that has more than that is just a greedy, grubbing money. And they actually fought back and forth for about 3 minutes. I let him too. I'm just like, why don't you guys discuss this quick? And he's like, no, you know how many, 3.8 is nothing. Yeah, you're just a, and I let him go back and forth. It was kind of fun to watch. And finally, what I did was I went, whoa, okay, stop. 17-year-old, can we try an experiment? And if you don't like it, we'll put it back to the way you had it before. Is that fair? He's like, all right. I said, I want you to turn that thermostat up to what you now think is not crazy. I want you to turn it up to where you're like, you guys are just freaking ass greedy nuts. I went, yeah, that level, please. And so he turned it up to, I think it was like 10,000 or 10 million. I went, no, I'm talking, I want you to quadruple that. And he's like, what? I went, yeah, 400 million. And then I future paced from 17. I said, now understand, this doesn't mean you're going to be making $400 million when you're 18. This is a trajectory. This is a thermostat high setting. But I want you to see what your life could be if you would open up your thermostat bigger so you can think bigger. And so I put him through the paces and, 20 years old, land down, look around, see what you see, hear what you hear, taste and smell what you taste and smell. Notice where you live. Notice what you drive. Notice who you hang out with. Notice your schedule. Notice your bank account. Spend a few days in this new reality. Give me an update. What's changed? What's different? And I always like to throw in where you live, what you drive, who you hang out with, what is your work schedule, and what is your bank account. And I put him all the way up into 10 years into the future. Let's just say his life was a little different. Okay, it was a lot different. But I didn't emphasize what it was that he had. What I emphasized was, okay, how many people have you been able to help with your thermostat set for 400 million? That hit him. I said, what kind of businesses have you been able to successfully build to help all of the employees that needed a job and provide the services that your businesses provide? How many was that? Tears came to his eyes. I said, okay, we can't change history. But what I want you to do is I want you to take that trajectory now from where we are 10 years into the future, and I want you to grab that trajectory line and I want you to snap it down to present day. Yes, that trajectory is pretty steep, but it's been done by millionaires and billionaires many times over. A billionaire making 400 million a year, nothing. And now I want you to travel that trajectory, not once, not twice, but hundreds of thousands of times at the speed of thought until you know every dip, turn, peak, crevice, everything in that road, so that when you go into a valley, you're fine with it because you know that the trajectory of going down is going to help you speed back up the other side even faster because the other side is even higher. Record all of that information, every detail in high definition. Take every picture that you can ever take. Lock it in to your GPS so you know exactly where you're going. And then I had him check his thermostat when we were ready to finish. Now, the funny thing was, About 3 months later, he called me up and he said he was doing really great. And then all of a sudden, things just kind of stopped progress. And so I had him go into his control room and take a look at the thermostat, because we put in a brand new digital thermostat with feedback and everything. The new one was tore off and the old style was turned back, put back on and turned down. And so I sent him back to talk to the 17-year-old, find out what the hell was going on. He didn't know. The 18-year-old got freaked out and tore the new one down, put the old one back up. So we called in the 18-year-old and all three of them had a discussion. The 18-year-old finally saw the mistake of his ways. The new thermostat was put back up, and the 17-year-old got himself a full-time job of being the security manager for the control room to make sure that the thermostat would not be messed with ever again. Now, that was a long explanation through a protocol for secondary gain, but in it, I want you to notice that I had to go back to 17 to figure out why that cap was in place. I future paced at the higher setting up to 10 years into the future, took that trajectory, snapped it down to present day, had them record all of what it would take to get to that location 10 years in the future, go back to 17, adjust those settings, and then go forward. But we had to double check because, of course, an 18-year-old went in and thought he knew better. So, whew. Now the squirrel is tired. Yes, please.
Right. And I'm not trying to play devil's advocate or anything, but do you not think that it would be maybe more important to change the lower setting on the thermostat rather than the higher one, so that the minimum you have is what's improving all the time?
Can I challenge you on that?
Yeah, of course, please do.
I know from personal experience that lower setting is really easy to bounce and break down because of outward circumstances. Never in my life did I ever think that I would be basically homeless, but it's happened twice. And when that happens, survival mode can kick in real easy. And that's why in 2007, you saw so many CEOs lost their job and ended up homeless. And it was because of the fragility of the bottom end.
But if the bottom one was set, this is what I'm getting at, right? If the bottom one was set higher, wouldn't your bounce back from a fall be greater because you'd be drawn higher up than what your minimum acceptable amount is? Do you know what I mean?
And thank you. I forgot. I do have them raise the lower one. But I don't have them raise it super high because I think in my theory, if you're currently making $75,000 a year, and I tell you that you need to raise the bottom higher than that, I don't want your subconscious to look around and go, yesterday everything was fine. We were living really good on 75, and we thought 125 was out of our reach, and now 125 is the lowest setting, and we're freaking out and blah, blah, blah. I'll have them bring it up to a certain point, and you can secure it any way that you can find. But the reason I future pace to the highest level is I want them to focus on that upward trajectory, looking for
Yeah,
any landmines that might be in place.
I see that. One thing I have found, though, in my experience, is that necessity is a very powerful thing. And if you can get someone to really feel that they desperately need something, it's like lighting a fire under their ass, and they will just get up and take action and do stuff, right? And so sometimes I just think maybe doing the inverse might be helpful. It depends on maybe the personality of the person that you're talking to. Maybe some people prefer the stick to the carrot, or you know what I mean, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
But, it might be something to try out sometime, depending on who you're working with.
One analogy or one reference that I use is, regardless, I only use it because everybody knows who they are, and regardless of what you think of Trump, or especially the Trump kids, what do you think their financial thermostat looks like? Because I guarantee you, if you take Don Jr. and strip him of all his money, you can even put him in another country where he doesn't know a bunch of people, so he can't just rely on resources. And yes,
he'll find a way back.
Oh, his financial thermostat is like, oh, hell to the no. 100,000 a year? Are you kidding me? No, I'm not going to live in poverty. And he will push and grind 24/7 and sleep 4 hours a night if that's what it takes to get back to that comfort zone that we think is.
That's kind of what I was getting at. The minimum acceptable level, although it might be above your higher current level, right? Assuming that you could condition it with emotion, right?
Right.
Then you know, I mean, obviously it has to be a good job done in therapy, right? A good job done in terms of the process. But you know, as you know, we have those processes, and if you have the right candidate, you could probably make massive changes by sometimes doing the opposite of what is conventional, you know.
And something just had a quick little download. You could probably reframe the same setup for depression. You know, what is your happiness thermostat? What is acceptable in the depression terms?
It kind of reminds me a little bit of what I heard Tony Robbins say once about what are the things you will not stand for, even if you're feeling down now, even if you're feeling low now. What are some of the things that you would never stand for? What are some of the things that if someone did that, maybe it means, like, you know, harming someone that you care about or something, and that you would immediately take action, that no matter how low you yourself feel, that it would snap you into action. And then he used that as the anchor to install across on another different area of their life, right? To then bring that up so that you know, they would not accept failure in other parts or other areas. You have to be careful with the word parts when you talk about this.
The joys of vocabulary. And I had a squirrel across the road and I didn't grab it quick enough.
That's okay. It'll come back around.
Yeah. Or it'll grab one of its, or it'll flush up one of its friends and they'll run across.
Yeah.
See, this is why I enjoy this, because I love all of the different angles and different topics. Depression. Do you have any of your favorite go-tos for people on this? I've got a couple that I use, but
depression.
Yep.
Movement movement is probably the biggest one when it comes to depression. If you think about someone who's depressed, or think about their body language, they're often curled up in a little ball. They're often kind of laying down. They don't take up much space when they sit. You know, they kind of make themselves small, right? So not only posture, but actual movement, because a lot of times it's the same with fear as well. When somebody's afraid of something, the kind of picture in their mind, generally it's too big and it's moving towards them and they themselves are stuck. But if you reverse it and make the thing small and give them so it's still and they are moving, in the same way with depression, if you make the situation is the way it is and it's not going anywhere, it's changed. And I don't mean that in a bad way. That's not a suggestion. I'm saying the situation is the way it is. It cannot evolve further, but you have the power to move, and you can move freely. You can spin on a dime and you can go that way, and you can go that way. You can loop through space, and you can and just check it out from all the different angles and the different perspectives. You'd be surprised how quickly someone will come up with an idea or seven just because they were the one who was moving. Because a lot of times with depression, people are still and the problem is looming. And if you consider looming is a visual word, right? It's like it's coming towards you, right? That kind of thing. So if you reverse that, that's, for me, I think it's one that I found works very well.
Super cool.
You give the person the reminder that they are the ones who are free to move. And not only are they free to move, but they are like super agile. And the thing that is the problem, whatever it might be, that's making them feel like they are depressed, is stationary and immobile, and they have the power to move. And once you start giving them different angles, points of view, as John calls it, then you have all sorts of leverage. Because if you imagine like a hill, right?
Yep.
And then I'd say like, oh, you look at the hill from here, but then you could look at the hill from up here, or you could look at the hill from this side, or you could look from inside the hill out, or you could look from bird's eye view down. And depending on which, and then on top of that, you've got 3-dimensional. So I could look at the hill from where I am towards the screen. And then like if each of the different perspectives that I'm looking at is an arrow, like my finger is like an arrow that's looking at the hill, am I at the front of the arrow or am I at the back of the arrow? Do you know what I mean? And you can have so many different points of view to look at the same thing. And if you do it over and over and give them the feeling, the sensation within the trance that they are moving, they're carving shapes in space. I don't mean like outer space. I mean just space, whether it's swimming through water, gliding through the sky, whatever sensation is good for them, that they feel that they are moving and that they are agile, that they can turn on a dime and go the other way, or they could do a loop-the-loop and come back and just see it from the other side or whatever. And they kind of have that playful, oh, I could look at it this way, I could look at it that way, I could look at it, and just do it for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, as many different angles as you can. Exactly. And you watch, they will naturally, even if they don't come up with the solution, they will be much more primed to thinking about the whole situation more openly.
Right on.
Yeah.
This is why I love doing this stuff. That's awesome, man. Thanks for the input.
Yeah, no worries.
Here's another little thing that I came up with is I have my clients get a new blank journal, or not a journal, a daily planner. I tell them, now it doesn't have to be the big desktop corporate one, blah, blah, blah. It just needs to be something that you can keep next to your bed. Mm-hmm. And I want you to title it My Amazing Life. And the reason you keep it by your bed is at the end of the day, on each day, you just write down a little blurb, 3 things that you remember from the day that were cool. And they don't have to be these amazing, oh my God, I got to watch a baby giraffe born under a double rainbow and glitter flew out and doves flew by. No, it can be something as simple as walking down the sidewalk and seeing a dandelion growing up through the crack. Be like, it's a freaking weed. Yeah, well, maybe, but that weed had to go through that much cement to get to that much dirt to rise this much to show you a yellow flower. And you know what? Some days that's pretty cool. Or it could be, what's that?
I was going to say, so what if I challenge you a little bit on that? How about instead of that, how about what was your win for today? What was 3 wins for today?
Yep, and you can add those as well.
You know,
the reason I have them do that is because it's a reframe of what they notice. And you know, you can have people that are depressed or negative, and you can take them into the most beautiful arboretum with all of these amazing flowers from all over the world. And what's the one thing they see? That one damn weed over there in the corner. And they will go right to it and they'll grab onto it. They're like, oh my God, look at a weed, oh my God, look at this weed, this place sucks. Look what it's doing to my hand, I'm bleeding. And you're like, smack them on the forehead and make them stand up. And all of a sudden they're like, where'd all these flowers come from? Well, they've been here the whole time. But what about this weed? It's a weed. You can pull it, you can let it live, you can fertilize and feed it. But look what it does to my hand when I'm hanging on to it. What if you let it go? It's your weed. You can do whatever you want. But in having them starting to notice little stuff, and I emphasize the little stuff, they start paying more attention and recording that stuff, and especially when they know that they have to write it. And the reason I make them get a day planner and not a journal is in a journal, you can skip a day, a week, a month, and start writing again right underneath it, and there's no gap. If you have a day planner and you skip a day or 2 or 3, those days are blank. And it keeps you on track. Now, I've got a female client that I taught that to, and she has 2 boys. And so I told her, you know, have your boys put it, whether it's a little drawing, you know, if they're not really good with words and stuff, have them draw little pictures of things that they remember from the day. Well, one session, she'd been doing this with her boys for about a month. And she goes, the other night I put the boys, we did now they do it together. All 3 of them pull out their day planners and they do it, you know, they write their stuff in. And she goes to her bedroom and goes to bed, and all of a sudden there's a little knock at the door, and she opens up the door, and it's her oldest son. And she goes, what's the matter? And he goes, Mom, how come I can only write down 3 things? And she goes, honey, you can write down as many as you want. And he goes, oh, really? Cool. And runs off. And she said that little kid sees the coolest stuff everywhere he goes. It doesn't matter. He could look at a manure pile and be happy because there's a smiley face somewhere in it that he noticed. He doesn't see the weeds anymore. And even the weeds that he sees have cool flowers on them.
So I'll go one further.
Woo!
You don't have to notice the wins, and you don't have to notice the good stuff. Anything that's new and different.
Yeah.
Anything that's new and different, even if it's neutral, even if it's not good, right? And I'll say it that way on purpose, not good, right? Yeah, anything that's new and different. You ever, you know Ellen Langer? You know Ellen Langer's work? She's the social psychologist, Harvard, Yale, like all the way 30, 40 years worth. She wrote a book called Counterclockwise. Very good, very interesting. And she basically came up with this idea that what the brain really wants and what it really looks for is novelty. So anything that's new and different, if you want to feel younger, if you want to feel like your life is lasting longer, if you want to feel more fulfilled in general, just notice all the different things, or even go so far as to create novelty for yourself. Simple things like brushing your teeth with your other hand, or wearing your watch on your opposite wrist, or, you know, doing like, don't, once you get into habit, that's where it feels like that life is just kind of passing you by, and that, oh my God, another year, oh my God, it's 2022 already. But if you notice things that are new and different, because if you think about a child, when a kid's only like 6 years old, a lot of the experiences the kids having are still new and different. So when they go to sleep at night and they dream, that conversion to long-term memory takes a lot of processing, and it feels like by the time a year's passed that a lot has happened. Whereas if we get older, we kind of get set in our ways and we keep doing the same patterns over and over and over. And so we have less novelty. And so it feels like life is just kind of passing us by, and we don't, and that can also cause depression and stress. So by looking for novelty and even creating novelty, regardless of whether it's positive or not positive, you can feel better and enjoy more the fruits of things you might not have noticed already.
That was awesome.
Yeah. Ellen Langer, look her up. Really, really cool woman.
That was the perfect finish to our time here. And ironically, as soon as you were in the middle of it, a big ass squirrel jumped on the road and looked at me and went, and I'm like, next week, dude, next week, because this is the perfect, we're at 7:58 our time here in Texas, which means it's about time to close it up. But I want to thank each and every one of you for being here and making this worth our time. I hope that I make it worth your time. I enjoy it, obviously, and I appreciate y'all. Just want to make
Thank
sure.
you, TJ. Thanks for having us, man. Appreciate it. Totally worth staying up till 2 a.m. for. Totally worth it.
See, now that right there, thank you for also getting that on the recording. What time is it where you are, Alan?
Lunchtime, 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
But it's 1 o'clock Wednesday, right?
Yeah, it's tomorrow.
Yeah. So he's lunchtime Wednesday.
Yeah, it's lunchtime tomorrow, and it's 8 o'clock at night here. And I love you guys. I love all of you, and I really appreciate you showing up. And I hope that everybody got some little nugget or one or two or three things that you can take forward.
Absolutely.
What time is it where you are, Maurice?
7.
7.
I'm just an hour behind you.
And Lenora, you?
It is 9 o'clock. This is my pumpkin hour. Like 8 o'clock is my pumpkin hour. So.
See, and
Well worth it though. That was awesome. That whole last part too. Absolutely great, guys. Awesome night.
all right, kids, I will bid you a good night, a good morning, good afternoon, and a good sleep. And you all have an amazing week. Hopefully I get to see your amazing faces again in 7 days. Until then,
Cheers.
be well, be nice people.
Great night, TJ.
Hi, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was awesome.
Do. We're having fun yet?